What sense do you have of how we got to the point that Shador Sanders was taken in the 5th round by the Browns after Dillon Gabriel?
He rubbed teams the wrong way. I truly believe that. In a meeting with the Giants, he allegedly got up on the board and wasn't fully prepared for an install. One of the easiest.
I don't like that sentiment, right? Because this is my biggest ick with the NFL draft this last year. It was definitely a statement. I'm not going to say collusion on race or anything, but they were just trying to make a statement. And then now you're getting reports on, oh, Shador wasn't good on the board. You know, this is the same guy that wore Giants cleats during the season to signify that he wanted to go to New York because he wanted to play there. And he's a coach's kid and has never been ever reported of him not knowing his plays, not understanding plays. He's always led the offense. And you're going to tell me that for the NFL draft that he wasn't able to learn and install and he came unprepared? I'm just not buying it. I don't like this narrative being pushed for Shador right now. Don't mind you, I'm not the biggest Shador fan, but at the end of the day, I don't like the fact that he dropped, and it was not because of his play on the field. It was definitely something of off the field behavior. But even then, there's been worse players that have been drafted for worse off the field behavior. So I'm not going against. I'm calling BS.
Ways to get teams to pass on you is to not do well in a situation where they're asking you to do an offensive install in front of them. I do think it was some of the football stuff, limited athletic profile that teams, maybe not all teams liked, but then I think
limited athletic profile is even crazier. Let's think about this. This is the same Shador Sanders that had one of the worst offensive line run games and defenses in college football. Mind you, he inherited a 1-11 football team, which him and Coach Sanders, primetime Dion Sanders, made who they are. At one point, they were playing for a college football playoff berth, and now they're going to say his athletic makeup. Come on, let's be honest. Guy threw for 4,000 yards and almost 40 touchdowns with 10 interceptions, and one of the most accurate QBs when not pressured in the pocket. Come on, I don't want. I'm trying to kill the narrative that Shador Sanders, leading up to the draft, was not a first-round pick. Now all these speculations and all these rumors and all these draft great analysts are now trying to critique him. I'm calling it BS because there's way worse quarterbacks that were drafted before him, and I'm looking at guys like Jalen Milroe and Dillon Gabriel that should not have been drafted before him. But like I said, I digress.
A lot of it was just what transpired in the lead up to this. Remember, he didn't work out the combine either.
I don't think we're ever going to see a draft fall like this again. I thought part of this was sending a message to not just Shador, but everybody else. Hey, if you don't play by our rules and you're not a Travis Hunter who's just going to go second regardless, we're going to make an example out of you. Like, we're going to make sure that next year when it comes up, we're going to say, hey, look what happened to Shador. You don't want to go to the Senior Bowl. You don't want to do private workouts. Well, you're taking a risk there.
And I'm glad that might have been the only sensible point that was made in this video. And I think that's kind of hit head on what everything that kind of transpired this last weekend. The NFL is a machine, and the machine likes things the way it does. So when you have a disruptor like Dion and Shador who are coming into the machine and trying to disrupt the way to flow things, like you said, not playing the Senior Bowl, not doing the combine, quote unquote, not being prepared at the combine. Things like that, it was like they're making a point of emphasis to any future prospects, letting them know that, hey, if you're not going to play by our rules, if you're not going to do it the way we want to do it, because at the end of the day, the NFL is a business. And when the powers that be at the top, aka the owners, don't feel like the prospects or whoever's coming in is playing by their rules, yeah, there's gonna be some repercussions, and this is just gonna be a factor of how players move forward in the draft process, showing them like, hey, if you don't play by our rules, you're gonna drop. And we've never seen a QB or a player that is not obviously like a Heisman, type generational talent drop this far. That was projected a first-round pick, even a second-round pick, dropped to the fourth, fifth round. I don't think we'll ever see that again. And I'm just curious to see what other things come out because he was drafted to the Browns, and that QB room is stacked. Obviously, Deshaun might not play this year due to injuries, but they did sign Joe Flacco. They traded for Kenny Pickett. And they just, let's not forget, drafted a QB in the second round with Dillon Gabriel. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play this and how Shador is going to respond because at the end of the day, you know what they say, pressure makes diamonds or burst pipes. So I'm hoping Shador responds to what's going on and puts the best foot forward and shows everybody why he should have been a first-round guy. Thank you.